I'm handsome, I'm fast, I'm pretty, and can't possibly be beat. They know it.
Pure exhilaration, feel it when you leave the earth. 100% adrenaline rush is what we know it's worth.
Welcome to the SteveJoe Podcast for the 5th time.
Oh my goodness, this leather jacket coat ain't helping either.
How you doing today, my guy?
Man, beautiful, man. Encouraged, happy. Last episode, monumental, the big 3.
Absolutely. We added another edition. What's up, Keagan?
What's going on, fellas? What's going on?
Man, you looking dapper over there again, my guy.
Man, I try.
Hey, listen. Before we get started, because we do have a special guest, but before we get started, I wanted to give a shout out to my mother, Vancilla Talbert. She has been a rock to our family, raising 5 children alone, and watching her in the time in my life, it helped me grow character. It helped me understand the value of dignity, the value of respect, the value of honor. You don't always get the earthly rewards. You don't always get people patting you on the back. Sometimes people will break your heart because you continue to take them back over and over again. Sometimes those things happen, but you get comfort in knowing that you were able to be somebody with dignity, somebody with respect, somebody who admired ethics, somebody who tried to keep their name. Me personally, I'm working to keep my last name going through the earth in a good name, because a good name can take you far. Mm-hmm. It can. That's why they attach your name to credit and things like that. It helps you. It helps them evaluate what type of person are you. What are your habits? What are you more liable to do? Are you volatile in this time in your life? That's why nothing lasts forever on your credit, because they know character changes and it can change through seasons. But that's the same thing. But going back to my mom, seeing her and how she's been able to maintain that over 40 to 50 years. Just, you know, that I 37 years that I've ever seen her, being able to maintain it. And all my brothers and sisters can attest to this. And I want to give her flowers now because she's beautiful. She take care of everybody. I don't want to cry, but she take care of everybody in my family. My grandmother, she's taking care of my 93-year-old grandmother. And, you know, it is to see that work ethic at 74 is unbelievable. Yeah. I mean, I've never witnessed greatness like that. She ain't got rewarded for it, but I want to tell you, I am going to reward you. I can promise you that. Amen. You won't leave this earth without your reward. So, Amen. But Joe, I know your mom been through a lot, and I'm sorry, Joe. I know your mom been through a lot.
I felt that, and I just I just want to say that, you know, every time I met your mother, man, she's treated me like I was one of her sons, and even though I've only met her a handful of times, that didn't matter. Like, she welcomed me in with open arms. That's just the type of person she is.
Absolutely.
So I'm glad that you were able to give her flowers on this podcast, and everything that we manifest together, the 3 of us, we're going to make sure that she gets her reward, that she knows that her hard work didn't go in vain. And I hope that my mother knows that her hard work did not go in vain with the 3 of us. Everyone knows my story. But, you know, my parents, as my father is active in my life, I'm not going to, I know it's popular to put down black fathers and act like they're not around, but I always give my father credit.
Absolutely.
He was around. He was involved. If you know me, you know I had a dad, even though my parents were divorced, and he was not perfect, far from perfect, but who is?
No question.
Right? But my mother took care of all 3 of us, and she did an amazing job. She's a strong woman, beat cancer twice.
Wow.
Beat cancer when I was around my son's age, and beat cancer again right when my wife and I were getting married.
Yeah.
She's a beautiful, strong, smart woman. She is my hero, and I tell her that. I don't know if she really believes me, but she is my hero.
No question.
She just a strong person. And before I pass it to Keagan, and Steve already touched on it, when I think of my mother, I think of 2 words: integrity and loyalty. And if you know me, if you know Joseph Barr, 2 things you can always use to describe me. And Steve, you know me for the longest.
Absolutely.
Me.
Absolutely.
Integrity and loyalty.
Yeah.
If you're my brother, you're my brother forever.
No
Absolutely.
Question. It's good stuff. And I could tell you ain't got to look far for heroism. Right?
Absolutely.
You do not have to look far for the standard bearers that we see on TV or we hear on the radio. that's powerful testaments, from both of you. I lost my mother when I was young, I said on the last episode. But even in 15 years, I got the pillar that I needed in my life to kind of move forward and behave the right way, walk the right way,
Absolutely,
talk the right way. So yeah, heroism is not far away from us, brothers. We don't have to look on the TV or listen to a radio or a song on the radio to figure out what we can be, because we have those particular examples directly in front of us.
Yes.
Just got to look.
Yeah.
And I want to ask our guest the same question, but first I want to introduce him, man. Hey, so guys, we have a special guest in the building, man. I'm elated about this one, man. I'm talking about, I have had, there's two people in my life that I've had a front row seat to see their maturation, and that's Tim and that's Don, probably two of the closest people to me. And I've seen them because we did a lot of the similar things. We went, play football together in North Greenville, but I've been able to watch this guy growth from high school. We didn't know each other much, but we heard of each other. We played against each other. My team, we won. We beat Abbeville. But by the way, I just want to let I had more yards than him too. By the way, but
I had a better highlight tape. I had a better highlight tape. Though. He played running back.
Yeah, he played. Yeah, he played. He was a bruiser at Abbeville. He's a legend in Abbeville. No questions asked. Listen, you don't want that smoke.
This is gonna sound terrible. I know. I mean, get off Steve. Steve is an incredible football player. Steve should be in the NFL, or retiring now. But y'all just don't know how great Steve is. But I just want to let you know that, bro. I know I say that often, but I believe.
I appreciate it, bro.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. But Tim, back to my guy. This guy, I've never seen a work ethic, somebody more diligent and single-minded. This guy is relentless in his pursuit of consistency. He pursues consistency. He hunts it down. And I don't know if people know how hard it is to be consistent. Like, everybody can do something 3 or 4 times. We can do 5 or 6 episodes. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. But how can you do 400? Can you do 300? Can you keep going when absolutely nobody's looking? This guy's story is absolutely fascinating, incredible, inspiring. Man, I want to welcome my guy, Tim Brown, to the show. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing awesome, man. And first and foremost, thank you for the opportunity. And since we're in flourish mode, I want to make sure I give you guys your flowers while we're here. And I've listened to every episode. And when you think about an area that's saturated, such as podcasts, everyone's doing podcasts. Yeah. But you guys could have easily conformed to how everyone else is doing things, but you've actually transformed how the podcast venue is being looked at.
Wow.
Every episode that you guys have had has been inspirational to me, and it's hard to inspire me. Every single tap done, you guys' first episode, and then Keagan, his story. I mean, the platform that you guys are creating to continue to demonstrate Black excellence, man, it's phenomenal, man. And keep going.
Absolutely.
Keep going. Although eyes may not be noticing you guys now, sky's the limit.
Absolutely.
You guys control that. So, man, flowers while we're here. I appreciate the opportunity. And, again, you guys are doing some phenomenal things. Yeah.
So let me ask you, Tim, how do you, because I know your mom a little bit and she had a story. How do you feel about your mom?
Man, when I think about Paula Brown, man, dog, she's the embodiment of perfection. When I think about faith-based, and this will kind of go into some of my story, but just seeing some of the values, she's a huge faith-based woman. She kind of forced us to go to church when I was younger. Went to a small church in Promised Land, but those were part of her values. She had my oldest brother as a teenager, and just to see her embrace her responsibilities, still become a registered nurse, and still have the faith for my dad that ran the streets, smoked crack cocaine, and to hear people tell her she's foolish to still pursue a man, and she says, God didn't tell me to move. So she waited, and now she has the man that she warred over, probably has bruises on her knees because she constantly prayed over him. And, man, she talked to me about, she named me Timothy because of the book of Timothy. And she talked about 3rd generational faith. So in the book of Timothy, it talks about
you
the
on fire,
same
bro.
faith that Lois and Eunice had that also is in you. And so that's why I think my faith is where it is, simply because I watch her model what that looks like.
Wow, that's
good.
Now,
you know, a lot of people talk about, I believe, I feel it's going to be worked out, but then you're worrying when the next meal is going to come, when the bills are going to be paid. And, man, Paula Brown modeled that for her. I'm the youngest of 3 boys. So she modeled that for all of us, man. And my hat's off to her just to see think the Bible talks about what's foolish to man is pleasing in the sight of God. And you think about registered nurse, beautiful woman, a guy, husband running the street doing drugs, and people are like, why are you still with this guy? And she moves off of the sound of God.
I'm gonna get back to that in your story. That's good because we got to go to some. Man, listen, bro, we could just stop the podcast. We ain't got to go no further.
Study, right now, the Bible study. That's what's up.
So let's go here, Joe.
Facts.
What happened to college basketball,
Man.
bruh? Over my God. Prior to the tournament, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm an avid sports watcher. I just couldn't find it this year. I couldn't.
Bro,
I agree.
I couldn't find it. I just couldn't. It's not that I wasn't interested. I just was trying to find it. Like when I sit down for a game, if you're a sports watcher, when you, as a man, or even a woman, when you sit down for a game, bro, it's kind of like a peace that come over you watching your team. Yeah. It's like a calmness. Like I just go, I want to be a zombie. I don't want to think. I want them to do the work for me.
Yeah. Facts.
So college basketball didn't do that for me.
I mean, fellas, I forgot the tournament was on today. Real talk. I forgot the tournament. This is where college basketball is right now.
Yeah.
Where I went down the road. I'm going down the road, and I heard them talking about it on the radio. I'm like, oh, I forgot the tournament was on today. Yeah. Well, part of the reason is because the first game was Oregon State and Loyola Chicago, and who knows who plays for Oregon State and Loyola Chicago.
But I picked them for God, they messed my bracket
so
up.
It's layered. And before I pass it to Keagan, because I know we're going to talk about this conversation more in depth, I think it started with the lack of stars. It started there. And what I mean by the lack of stars is the longevity of the stars. Steve and I, we're North Carolina fans. When you went to North Carolina, you were there.
Ed Coda.
3 years.
He had Tim a Tar Heel too.
Exactly.
He a Tar Heel too.
Stackhouse and Wallace was there 2 years.
Vince Carter as well.
We looked
he
down
wrecked the tournament.
Yeah. So I think it started with the lack of star power. And I'm gonna pass it to you, Keagan, man. What do you feel about
Well, that's
it?
one big point is not only star power, but transcendent stars.
Facts.
The reason why we had a look at Duke last year because of who? Or before
Zion.
last?
You want me to say? I say Zion.
You know what I'm saying? That's an alley-oop for you. I give you that. But I think the second piece is college brands are no longer college brands. So it was Duke, UNC, Kansas, and Kentucky.
Yep.
And they bring viewership. Because
They do.
they're
The Blue
national-
Bloods.
Blue Bloods.
Yeah, they are national brands, right? Gonzaga's the number one team in the country, and arguably probably the best team in the country.
Absolutely.
But does not have a national footprint from a viewership perspective.
That's facts.
So you're not getting that same viewership you used to get to, which is why it's not in people's front of mind right now.
Tim, does one and done? Let me ask you this question.
Adam Morrison now. So let's talk Adam Morrison put Gonzaga on the map now. And then the Lakers drafted him.
Well, I'll say he took him. I think he made him national problem. But they were going to the Sweet 16 before Addison. They kept making it.
When you think about Keagan said, when you think about college basketball, Gonzaga is not the first team.
Oh yeah,
No, you don't.
not at all.
And I think the question becomes just like the Dallas Cowboys. You can go anywhere in the country, you're going to find a Dallas Cowboy fan or a Steelers fan. Yeah. Certain programs bring viewership. In football, when Texas program went south, I think it was the first big thing to actually have a TV station. Was Texas University.
Yeah.
You know, so when they went south, ratings went down. You just got to have certain programs to be successful to drive ratings, to drive the actual tournament that you want to have for basketball.
So Tim, how and you can answer this question too, Joe, and everybody can chime in on this. Was one and done rule or taking away the fact that players could go to the NBA, has that affected college basketball? Taking away that, because if you take away the element of somebody being able to go straight to the NBA, then when the one and dones come in, they're not going to stay. So they're like Zion, he was a flash in the pan, he was gone. But if you let guys go straight from high school to NBA recruiters and experts let these guys know you're not ready. You know, now guys are more careful with their brand, so they would listen. Back in the days, it was a lot of guys who weren't ready to go to the NBA, and it made it look bad. Like watching bombs in the I don't want to call out names, but man, come on, bro. The product got watered down because you had undeveloped talent in a superstar league, and you couldn't get no parity. So here's the thing: if you let these guys, like out of 2019 draft. It was only two guys that could have went straight from one guy that could have went straight from high school, Zion. He was the only player that could have went straight from high school. This year, I struggle to see if any of these guys could go.
No.
And if you don't go to high school, make them stay a minimum of 3 years. You grow the product, you learn. You don't have to make them stay.
I got a counter argument.
I'm gonna say I don't think you have to make them stay. But what I'm saying is
baseball makes them stay.
They do.
They should adopt the NCAA baseball rule. Is
that's murky waters. Yeah. So I don't know about it's murky waters.
We're gonna talk about that.
Go ahead, Tim. Answer the question.
Go ahead, Tim.
I agree. I think that it's a developmental league. However, you're one and done, so somebody's coming out every year, despite their skill set. Because we do know NBA, NFL, they all draft on upside.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when you think about their potential, everyone has potential and ability.
Yeah.
And I think when they go 1 year, then it's, I can see putting this person, whether it's the D League or whatever it may be, and continue to try to cultivate their gift. But I think it is, one and done has definitely changed the game. I think it's multiple phases of it, though. Even like being a North Carolina fan, I don't think Roy Williams has adapted. That's a totally different conversation, but I don't think he's adapted to where we are now.
He's not Coach Calipari.
He's
not Coach Calipari.
Roy Williams is a headache to me.
No. I don't mean coaching. I mean going to that one and done recruiting process.
I don't think one and done.
The fact that we missed on Zion is go ahead, but the fact that we didn't get Zion is go ahead.
I think with the one and done rule, I think it had to happen. I think it was a necessary evil because, like Steve was saying, it got out of control. Like with the draft class with Tyson Chandler and Eddie Curry.
Chicago hoops.
Exactly. It was getting out of control. These guys were not ready to go to the NBA. Now, with that being said, if you go back, you still had phenomenal freshmen that would have a phenomenal season, Carmelo Anthony being an example, and the college basketball product was still good. It's insane how quickly college basketball fell off a cliff, and I don't think you can point the finger to it being one and done and a lack of talent because talented guys are still out there. Look at the NBA
well,
right
I think
now.
a lot of them go to mid majors now because in basketball, because the NCAA it's for the coaches. Calipari. Who did you name? You named Calipari. You named Mike Krzyzewski. You named those guys. So that's what you name when you talk about. You didn't think about the players because there's a litany of players. But the NBA is players-driven league.
Yeah.
So I got a completely different point of view on this, and it's a morality question.
Okay.
It's un-American. Let's just be clear. If you have a product to sell and somebody wants to buy it, how come the only two sports that you're going to hint at for are black-dominated sports? Question. And it's rhetorical because I know the answer to it.
Yeah, of course.
So one and done is un-American first and foremost because baseball players can get drafted straight out of high school.
Of course.
No problem.
But they do go to AA, AAA.
But you can still get paid right out of high school.
Yeah, you can still get paid right out of high school.
So my point is one and done should be allowed because those who can go should go. So you made a point about the guys who bombed. We're not talking about Moses Malone, Kevin Garnett, LeBron James,
Kobe.
Jermaine
O'Neal,
who transcended
Steven
the game,
Jackson,
right? So you can't hinder their product they can sell to a market that wants to buy it because those who might bomb. NBA teams, do your homework. Don't draft a bum if you can draft on upside if you want, but the problem is you're going to have a risk you're going to take with that particular.
But the problem with that, Keagan, is when these players are unproven. The NBA is such a different game than college. Yeah. Like it's such a different game. Yeah. So you really don't know what you're getting. Like
exactly.
Like LeBron might have been the only player that ever came out that
you knew
it was
exactly.
His floor.
It was more than
that. No. What I'm saying is
Garnett was
no. Kevin Garnett wasn't like LeBron James.
No. I'm not saying he was better than LeBron James. He was a known quantity.
No, what I'm saying is I'm saying his projection when Kevin Garnett came out, he wasn't. I know he was going to be good, but they were shunning Kevin Garnett and Kobe Bryant, and they weren't accepted. They were good, but people thought Kobe was going to be a bust at one point. Mm-hmm. After the '98 season, people were like, he made the All-Star team because he was popular, but after that season, after he shot that air ball 97, 98 in Utah, you remember that?
Oh yeah,
people were questioning.
And the whole argument with the NBA, they said that part of the reason why they put the one and done in place because they said we don't have enough time, to Steve's point, to evaluate these guys. There's not enough film. We don't know how they're going to respond against people who are older age. That's why they need at least to have 1 year in college. but 1 year is not enough.
No, it's not.
It's not.
I think they.
But you're right, though, Keagan.
You put it in place to help the NCAA. Let's just be clear. You wanted to help.
That's it
That's
right there. That's it right there.
That's why you did it. It had nothing to do with skill, talent.
Of course,
you did help the revenue stream of the NCAA because you look at these people as assets.
I don't think so, Keagan.
No, Keagan. Now I'll say this. Go ahead, Tim.
There's some partial truth there.
No, what I'm saying is the NCAA is the monster here. So let's keep that a buck.
NBA is culpable.
The NBA, they're culpable too. But let's be clear. The NBA collects billions. Mm-hmm. And they say, hey, let us have them for 1 year. And you know, everybody in this room know how corrupt the NCAA is.
I'm going to call that point out. Go ahead.
But what I'm saying is that's who you blame, though. Let's put the onus on that.
The NBA does not benefit from college basketball. This is not like that. Now, the NFL, yes, you can call them the carpet because in the NFL, you have to be, 3 years removed from your high school graduation class?
But that's because of physicality. That's because of physicality.
I agree with Keagan on that.
That's because of physicality.
How many? Let's go either way. Let's put it to the. How many players could have came out of high school? How many? It's only one player we know that could have came out. Well, I know Adrian Peterson.
Well, you can't say that because in the XFL, even though it's defunct now, it's coming back. The XFL didn't have an age limit. I'm just saying. I'm just
use the defunct league as your source.
They're coming back though. They're coming back. Shout out to Dwayne the Rock Johnson. They're coming back. Black ownership.
Go ahead, Tim.
You can't really, and I'm gonna let you go, Tim, but you can't really act like the NFL is not complicit in this because they're more egregious than the NBA. The NBA really doesn't care about college basketball. They don't.
Go ahead,
Tim. No, I was just you were gonna say Adrian Peterson, and you said one person. I was gonna give you a couple more.
Who you think?
Trevor Lawrence?
No, not Trevor Lawrence.
We got to
I'm not even a Gamecock fan, but Clowney.
Trevor
Lawrence.
Clowney.
And then to me, AJ Green. I could see that with AJ Green as well.
Did you say bust?
Partial. Clowney's a partial bust.
Clowney's a bust.
He's not a full bust.
Clowney is a bust.
He's not a full. He's a partial bust.
Spoken like a Clemson Tiger. Spoken like a Clemson Tiger.
I'm Florida State.
I'm just telling
I got you.
Tell me when the Texans had a great system. Development matters.
It does.
If you're great, you go through the system, bro.
Not in football.
Not in football.
Come on, man. You can't stop. Now, if you're a quarterback, yes.
You need to get
What about Jamarcus Russell?
Now, let me tell you why they're right.
Jamarcus Russell?
Scheming helps.
But I'm going to tell you right. Let me tell you right. Because in football, you're so dependent. There's 10 more guys on the field. And people really have to do their job in order for you. Listen, if one person do their job wrong.
If that's true, then you can't have
I'm not saying he's not a partial
picks coming out of nowhere becoming all pro guys.
That's because they work on good systems.
No, come on, man.
Yeah, Joe.
You don't think it's good system, Joe?
No, Clowney didn't want it.
You got an attitude right now.
Clowney did not want it because Clowney. And listen, I'm not trying to act like he wasn't a good NFL player, but I'm talking about in terms of the hype that he came out of college.
The hype, I'll give you that.
And that he was drafted number one, a defensive player, drafted number one overall. He did not live up to expectations. And in the NFL,
that's a fair point.
If you don't live up to expectations, those expectations, you're a bust.
That's why I said partial bust because his career's not over yet.
I don't know if you can the range can only be hit expectations or be a bust. I don't know if that's the case. But I want to come back to the original point.
Facts.
About the NCAA and the NBA. The NBA did that because the NC2A wanted to keep revenue streams going because they was losing talent.
Yeah.
If you can't put talent on the court, I don't care what the sport is, college or pro, you will not get viewership. It was put in place to help their revenue stream. That's one. To your point about the NBA has billions of dollars and they have a payroll. College athletics has billions of dollars with no payroll.
None. It goes straight to
There's a problem.
That is a problem.
It's un-American and it's not capitalistic to have a person who can sell a product and not be able to sell it because you want to make more revenue.
Can I ask you, why is it? Let's think about it. Is it un-American or is it really American?
Or are you talking about from a race perspective?
I'm just saying, is it? No, I'm saying is America. You know, corporate. It's dog eat. Listen, it's about eating in America. Let make no mistake about it.
But no other outside of football, no other sport has that in play. I understand for football because an 18-year-old can't get on the field with Ray Lewis. Let's just be clear.
So let me drive this
injury. It'll be an injury nightmare.
So let me drive this point down. I'm gonna go to you, Tim. How does AAU play a role in this? Because AAU has been collecting some checks too. coaches, these so-called mentors, hanger-oners. Man, back when I played AAU, bro, it was pure. We was just really eating ham sandwiches, going to the hotel room, playing 4 games a day, and going home. Like it was really like that. But Tim, it's changed. And how is that now? That pipeline now, because guys are already superstars before they even get to college. They're already got millions of followers. Yeah. Mikey Williams got a Corvette. They're playing at Lake Norman. He got a Corp. Like, I was like, wow. He's in the high school. Like, these guys are already celebrities. So, Tim, how has AAU affected guys? And I'm asking this question because do guys feel like they need to be developed anymore? Because you used to go to college. Grant Hill went to college for 3 years, fellas. Yeah. Like Grant Hill, one of the greatest players. He was plagued by injury. He went to college. Do you think the development aspect is causing college to get maybe a watered down product or the perception of it?
So I think there's some truth there when you think about AAU. So and then you add social media into that.
Absolutely.
So you anoint athletes early on, and then you think about everyone on all their followers, and then the monetary that comes with playing AAU ball. And so you don't necessarily have that appetite to continue to grow and build your skill set and continue to develop it. And so, go ahead.
Another question: you got a son. Your son he's very extremely athletic. He probably gonna go through this new process of how we do athletics. It's different now. It's called. You got to have trainers. You got to have people like the Sports Corp Performance Center. Tim, we came up. You just practice with the team. You practice in the backyard. You try to bench the most. Yeah. Like you have to be extremely skilled to even be considered now. Tim, how would you take your kid through the AAU circuit and all the bells and whistles if your kid became a 4 or 5-star athlete? Joe, I want you to answer that question too as well.
Yeah, so I think I would spend a lot of time developing him just because I coach and I know a lot about the sport. But I would also invest that time when he shows me that's what he wants to do.
Gotcha. That's important. That's good.
I wouldn't force him to do it, but he's shown me, like, I don't even want to play basketball anymore. I want to pursue football. So now that he's shown me that, I'm willing to put the resources forward to continue to build his skill set and what he's been called.
What about Jackson?
I'm definitely with Tim. And don't fix something that's not broken. You look at the great elite athletes. Michael Jordan played baseball and basketball. LeBron James was a phenomenal all-state football player. Russell Wilson, great baseball player. Like, I think it's dangerous when you, at a young age, you tell your child that you can only play this sport. Because you can learn and grow from other sports. And you got to let the kid be a kid.
That's fact.
So I think that actually stagnates the development. And I think that actually you're not really allowing them to reach their full potential, because you could take things from other sports. I played basketball and soccer. There are a lot of things I took from basketball. And Steve, you can go even further with this. I'm sure there are a lot of things you took from basketball that helped you on the football field.
Oh, no question.
So I think it's dangerous when you just narrow down your kid to one sport and don't allow them to grow and develop and learn from other sports.
Absolutely. Keagan, let me ask you this question. This inundation of just followers and high school athletes getting more praise like professional athletes, does it stunt their development from a mental perspective with fully understanding what life is?
I think so, because you can't speed up maturation. It's supposed to go at a certain pace, right? Have certain experiences so it can actually make sense to you based on where you're at in your life. If I put at 15 years of age, if I put that kind of scrutiny on you, if I put that kind of hype on you, that expectation, God forbid, money in front of you, you haven't lived out. It's like becoming Michael Jackson. You haven't lived out being a teenager yet. So I do think it stunts the growth because you can't let maturation take its own course. I do believe that. Yeah. But I would say AAU is much like private schools today, where you're spending 50 G's a year to put your kid in private school, and you put all this pressure on them, ACT, SAT, to go to the right colleges. We're starting too early with the pressures of success, whether it be academic or athletic. I think we're starting too early from that perspective. I do.
And don't forget, like with AAU, not everything is pure. Back when, like you said, Steve, and you articulated perfectly, like it was pure back when you played. Now, this is the capitalistic society,
yes, sir.
Yeah.
it's all about the money. So if you're a coach, if you're someone that's investing into it, you just want to try to find that next big thing that you can get the benefits out of. So if you find that next big thing, you're pretty much going to allow them to play and do what they want to do on the court. You ain't going to make them mad. You don't want to drive them away. That's my meal ticket right there.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
It's solely about what can I get from you,
Exactly.
corporate gain, not what can I offer you in terms of development.
And this is why a lot of
That's the point right there, Tim.
and this is why a lot of athletes don't trust. They can't trust anybody. They trapped now. Like they're really trapped in the sun now. Like you can't really see guys walking around ever now because it's so much pressure on them. It's so many people pulling at them. They don't know who to trust.
No.
Bro, I was at a club or just we was on an outing, and I seen Allen Iverson over there. And I was just looking at him, and there was some guys around him. He was right across from where I was, and I was like, man, he just looked like he was in a bubble.
Yeah.
Like he just couldn't really just. Like I was normal, just enjoying myself. Like I ain't worried about if somebody was looking my way. I was just having fun, oblivious. But he can't be oblivious, you know. And that's what these guys experience from 15.
Yeah.
But that's why we can't act like college is not a benefit, because what do all these guys say when they get to the NBA? Man, I miss college. I took it for granted. I missed the purity of it. I could just be myself. And the coaches, let's be honest, Coach K, Roy Williams, they don't really need these guys. They're already established. So I don't want to not going to college. I still think if you were an AAU talent, and even though you have the talent to go to the NBA, I would still kind of explore my options at college, because you can get something out of that experience on the court and off the court. I don't think we should knock that.
Yeah. I want to be clear. I wasn't knocking going to college.
The
my
mandate
thing is you can't tell me I can't go
Yeah.
where I want to go.
I
From
agree.
That to me is
because at
unmerited.
18, if you can work,
If somebody wants to buy my product, I don't care if it's bad. If you want to buy it, hey, I got some beachfront property in South Dakota I want to sell you, Steve. Here's what it costs. You want to buy it? If you want to buy it, hey, that's on you, right? So, and that's how they've been doing us since the beginning of time.
I think name
What-
image, and likeness will kind of help make it more appealing and take that argument away. I think that they do need to profit off of their name, image, and likeness. I agree with you, Keagan.
Joe, hey,
fill me up, Keegan.
there he goes.
Listen, man.
I think
Go ahead, Tim.
I just think there's a possibility that somebody's
Joe, I wanna
trying
come
to
back to
give
that.
sound guidance to these guys, but think about they come from various circumstances, and I'm gonna pursue the wealth.
Yeah.
You know, that's the mentality based on where my family came
Yeah.
from and currently where I am. And a lot of them show up with that mentality.
Yeah.
Because this hasn't been mandated, I'm gonna just go 1 year and then I'm going.
Yeah, and they really don't get to enjoy the collegiate experience, man. I mean, those were some of the best years of my life.
Yeah.
Facts.
Like the relationships I developed, how it helped me mature and become a young man that just understood how to talk to people. The younger generation especially, they don't even know how to talk and communicate with each other. You learn those things in college. I'm not saying you have to go to college to learn all those things. I'm not saying college is the end all be all, but there is a benefit from going. I think it helps these guys mature.
Yes.
I think you can tell like the subtle differences between the players who didn't go to college versus the players who spent some time in college, like a Grant Hill, like you brought up, and a Michael Jordan.
Yes, Cap.
Yeah.
What's the difference?
And I would say Kobe was one of the most.
I just want to tell you what's the difference.
Kobe's an
Because
athlete.
I'm not gonna let
That's a
you
good
just
point.
go.
Hold on.
What?
Good point.
We can't take an outlier, the extreme of the extreme.
He's an anomaly. He's
and
an
act like
anomaly.
it's the norm. That's what I know that's what we like to do in America these days. Well, this person.
Hey, that's my benchmark. That's my benchmark, Joe. This guy.
Come on,
Yeah.
man.
Michael
That's not
Jordan.
fair.
Yeah.
But you can be clouded by Kobe, and then you're evaluating everyone else
Yeah,
to
you-
the
By
Kobe
the
standard.
Yeah.
So what do you mean?
Explain.
You explain. You said it.
I mean, Michael Jordan, these guys, they were just very mature. I think you could tell a difference in the maturity levels.
It had nothing to do with their parents.
Yeah, that also played a part in it as well. I don't know. I didn't
Because I know some wild-ass college
I didn't
kids.
live in a household.
I know. Listen, I know some dummies that went to college.
Yeah.
Some cold blood
I'm
dummies.
not saying college is
And
the end all be all.
But what are you saying?
I'm saying that you can gain some things
I'm
from
just-
college
yeah.
and become more mature, being around your peers, being humble, knowing that it's not all about you.
Some people, I agree with that, Joe.
I think college has a responsibility component. I think that's what it really is. Can you be responsible for 4 years to do this? Because I don't remember half of what I learned in college, but I know I needed to get my work. I needed to do it at this time frame. Yeah. So it does give you a sense of responsibility, but responsibility can be had in other areas.
That's true. That's what I'm saying. Because to that point, it's one tool in the toolkit. You can get that at a community college, right?
Or at a summer camp.
Yeah, or you can get that working for somebody at a job, right? Yeah. If you're going to be an apprentice or something like that in a vocational program. So I agree with both of those points. I would also say too, if you're an athlete, you can also get injured in college and destroy your entire career, right? So that's what I'm saying. Let's let freedom be free.
I agree.
To make decisions.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
For
How do you feel about name, image, and likeness, though?
That's a great point, Joe. I do believe they should compensate these guys for that particular point.
Go back and give Chris Webber and the Fab 5 their money too.
That's where it started.
Go back and give them their money.
Now think about the unfairness of this. James Wiseman, Memphis.
Yep.
Fine. Now this is an unpaid amateur. Fined $11,500.
Ridiculous.
And lost his college career too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So how can you say that you can't pay them, but you can value their infraction to charge them money? I'm sorry, that's a contradiction. If there is one, so for me, pay them an appropriate salary that compels them to go. For those who know they're not ready, they now have some benefit to come back to college, other than a particular degree they don't want anyway.
Other than Twitter, now what's the checks and balances to the NCAA? Who checks them? Who knows who? Tim, do you know who worked for the NCAA? Do you know? Have you met you won't? Exactly. They don't even exist.
That is a powerful entity. That's like the CIA, bro. Like
I don't even know somebody who makes a decision for games.
Yeah. The only person that you know is when the tournament time comes around and the chairman talks about the selection process. Only time you see somebody works for the NCAA. Outside of that, you don't know who.
Speaking of process, let me go to this. There was a bill that was just passed. I'm in Georgia. Everybody knows that Georgia helped put the Democrats into the Senate seats and giving them a majority. And, Stacey Abrams, Reverend Warnock is in that position. And Georgia, people been upset visibly. There's two sides of the coins of this thing. And they passed a bill basically saying, people feel like it's voter suppression. I'm not. I know we got some opinions in here, but people feel like it's voters. Some people feel like it's don't. There's a lot of moving parts to this dynamic, and it shook up a lot of people. And it's been a talk for a lot of things going forward, and it has great effects on our country, because we're a divided country. We got to call it for what it is. We don't need to be a divided country, but if you want to be honest, you standing on one side or the other. You can't play both sides. If you want to, you can, but you're gonna get pulled either way. And Joe, I want to ask you, what's your perspective? Because I want to go to you first.
I want to go to Keagan first. I want to go to Keagan.
Okay, first. You want to go to Keagan? Yeah, so Keagan, what's your perspective on the bill?
Let me ask you a question, Keagan,
go ahead
before you go. Specifically, because I did some research on it, what parts of the bill are inherently or just flat out racist? Explain the bill to the audience and explain to them, because there are people claiming that this bill is just flat out racist.
So we got to break down each component. So I think one that can be called racist is when you start looking at absentee ballots and provisional ballots, right? Okay. So the provisional ballots are used. Let me back up for a second. Absentee ballots are used when you are not in the area to vote. Used for your military, athletes who are not in the area, people who are traveling on business, you cannot vote. So you're using absentee ballot. That was the original intent of it. It was used last year more than anything else because of COVID. Right?
Correct.
1.3 million more Georgians. Well, 1.3 million Georgians used it. Yes. That was a record, but it didn't increase voter turnout. Different tool that was used. Provisional ballots are used when you go to the wrong precinct and you can't supposed not vote there. With a regular ballot, use provisional ballot because you hit the wrong precinct. That one I think is particularly interesting from a race perspective because more blacks rent apartments than whites, right? So more blacks going to be moving around compared to whites. So if I can't put a provisional ballot in the box before 5 p.m., you are targeting one group of people. You can only put it in the box between 5 and 7 on election day. We know more blacks occupy working class jobs versus salary-based jobs. So now I got to use my vacation time to get off for election day to go and vote. If I'm going to use and I go to the wrong precinct, I got to use a provisional ballot. Now I have to go only between 5 and 7. That also hurts from a line perspective. And studies were shown last year during the election in Georgia, average wait times on election day in black dominated precincts, 51 minutes. Average wait times in white precincts that was dominated by white people, 7 minutes. I didn't say 37 minutes or 47 minutes. I said 7 minutes.
Come on.
So my point is they're targeting people and groups of people that fit a certain profile to make it much more difficult for them to vote. There are other parts in that too. Also, when you're in a line waiting a long period of time, how come it's a misdemeanor to give them food and water?
Well, I think the reason why they put that in because they were saying there were certain groups, whether you were part of the Republican Party or Democratic Party, you can kind of sway someone to vote that party if you come up to them and you be like, "Hey, man, I'm just letting you know that may be a reason. These are some of the reasons. That was a reason why people said that they put that bill in there." I mean, people are easily swayed. So
Do you believe that?
Plausible.
But can I ask you a question?
Steve,
Do you think food and
Steve, let's back up for a second. Don't do that. Don't know you're about to go. Let's
It's
back up for a
plausible.
second.
I'm not saying. I'm just saying it's plausible.
Let's go back to first and foremost addressing the intent of the bill. This was the most secure election in history. This has been proven by government agencies, CIA, most secure election
I disagree.
ever.
what, hold on? Why do you disagree?
Hold on, no, Steve.
Go ahead.
You can't put your opinion against studies done by the government who investigated it. Like, we can't take opinion against fact. These are facts.
I don't trust the government, but
Well, they can have it. Right? They can have it by
So go ahead, Joe.
well,
we gonna edit that, right?
No, we'll edit that.
My bad.
no, you're good. You're good. Well, here's my perspective. I always like to preface this by saying this is just my perspective. These are my opinions.
Go ahead, Joe.
They're saying that this is a response from the Republican Party because there were claims by the former president, Orange 44 or 45, whatever. It's
45.
Yeah, okay. That there were voter fraud. There was voter fraud out there, and that the Democrats stole the election. Now, was there voter fraud? Probably so. Why? Because every election there's voter fraud. Let's not forget what happened in 2000. Al Gore won the election. But guess what? The Republicans committed fraud. This has been proven. And they gave the election to George W. Bush. These things happen. I'm looking at it from a non-biased perspective. These things happen. There's fraud every single election. It just happened that Donald Trump, sorry, you were on the wrong end of the spectrum and you lost the election. Do I believe that Joe Biden got more votes than Barack Obama, the first black president in the history of the United States? Hell no. That makes no sense. You can't tell me more black people. Nobody was excited about Joe Biden. I know that.
But it wasn't. But I'll say this. Let me say this. It wasn't the excitement about Biden more than the getting the hell out Trump.
He got more votes.
It was our hate for Trump was stronger than our love for Obama.
I disagree.
For Biden.
No. I'm saying, he mentioned Obama. Biden didn't get more votes than Obama.
Well, it wasn't Biden. It was first John McCain, and it was Mitt Romney who ran against him.
No. What I'm saying is,
you mean the Democrats? Okay, now I follow.
yeah. What I'm saying is, we
That's
hated
the
Trump
amount.
so much. That's why we came out and he got record numbers.
Gotcha.
People hated Trump so much that they wanted to see it. This become bigger. Like 2008 was a blip, but this right here was monumental.
So
it was an insurrection.
That's a narrative that they're putting out there. We don't know that that's true.
Well, yeah. Let's talk about that for a second. Joe, go ahead.
I will say this. I looked at the bill and I heard your points, but nowhere there in the bill or nowhere in your points did anything specifically prevent. I hear you, I understand, I comprehend. But when you throw out the terms, and like a lot of people in media, MSNBC, CNN, ultra liberal media outlets are pointing out this is racist, I didn't take it that way because I didn't see, well, it's not me. Racist is like they're telling black people they can't vote. You don't have the ability to vote. telling someone that they have to have an ID, a valid ID, and telling people that they cannot sell water and things like that, I don't take it as racist because it applies to other racial groups as well. So I can't say inherently that that's racist. I just can't.
So my response would be, just because it affects other people, meaning it affects certain people more than others, right? That's the first point. That's why they're calling race, because it affects a certain group of people more than others, right? So the ID thing for absentee ballots, if you're using ID you didn't use the absentee ballot, did you, last year? You came and you voted in person, correct?
I don't vote for national elections.
Okay, so no, it's a fair point. It's a fair point.
I know.
Yeah,
I didn't know why. I didn't know why you don't vote when he get done too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, he said national elections. He didn't say you don't vote. He said for national elections. And so absentee ballots, you just came into the actual drop box, put it in, and you left. It was meant to be an expedient process,
Facts.
right? If I got to come in and show an ID, now I just might as well go ahead and just vote in person. So you push people to go vote in person who want to use a different tool. That's one. So now I'm maneuvering somebody who don't want to vote this way to make them vote this way, right? Then you're also going to make the absentee ballot box be put inside the early voting facility, right? So now I got to stand in line. Might as well just do in-person voting. So what you pretty much did was say, in Georgia, you pretty much can't use absentee ballots. Or you just want to just go ahead and vote in person. That affects people who don't have the same, I'm going to use the word capacity to leave work. They want to leave work to go do that thing versus other people. It affects certain people a certain way. And to your point about the vote, there's fraud in every election. It's less than 1%. It does not impact the outcome, right? So that's an issue about this being a secure election. And so that argument does not hold water because it does not have an impact on the outcome.
But the HR1 bill that the Democrats are pushing it, do you think that's going to make the voting selection more secure or less secure? Because this is also a response to the HR1 voting bill that they're trying to push, where all bets are off.
Hold on. No, you're not going to do that. You're pivoting. So it was not a response to that. It was a response to what Trump said last year. That's all it was. Let's just be clear. It was a response to what Trump said last year.
So was the HR1 voting thing was a response to what Trump said? Because that is egregious, Keagan. I mean, whatever side of the coin that you're on, just looking at it, you just can't have just anyone.
What is the HR? Explain that. What does it encompass? The HR1 bill, so people will know.
To be fair to the audience and to you all, I have to do some more research on it. But it's going to make it's basically the antithesis of the bill that they put in Georgia.
It is a more liberal bill.
It's less restrictive.
But what I would say is this. What I would say is this: voting is an inalienable right that we have as citizens, right? It has the government does not have a right to tell me I should not vote a certain way. One, that's one. Two, I'm a citizen. I registered to vote. That should be all I need, to be honest with you. It's up to the government to figure out how you make the election secure.
You should have a photo ID too, right?
Well, we can talk about that. But my point is, you should not infringe upon my right to make the thing more secure from your perspective. Just make the processes or make the ballot boxes more secure. But you infringe upon my right to do it. That's not right, because now we're not doing constitutional stuff that Republicans love to talk about. And so I would suggest to us, let's take a step back. We know the election was secure. That's one. So the intent is to actually make it more secure. It is to suppress votes. Think about this. There was no evidence that showed that mobile voting units were less secure than going in person. But now they're banned. Why? Because black folks use them more than any other group. Why? Because they're trying to avoid a 51-minute wait in line while their white counterparts had a 7-minute wait in line. This affects certain people a certain way. That's why people will call it racist.
Okay. Let me ask you this. Do you feel like black people are being used in this situation? Because clearly it's affecting other groups that identify as more liberal or democratic. So why, once again, are we being used as the face of this voter suppression bill? Like, this is inherently racist against black people. Once again, the Democratic Party is using black people to fight their war. And let's just say they, hypothetically speaking, they succeed, they're going to forget about black people again.
So I do agree with you. I do not condone or agree with identity politics. I don't do that, right? So don't use me as your badge to push something through. But as we always say, when something's happening to us, help us, right? get in front of it to make sure that we can be impacted in a positive way. So I don't have a problem with that. I don't think it impacts other people like us. Will it impact a Democrat who might be white? Possibly, depending on how where they live and what's going on in that particular community. But I don't want to address the sidebar piece. My point is, what made Georgian legislature think that the election was insecure to make them do this when it was secure? That's one. And two, what they did not make the election any more secure, because the election, the fraud you're talking about, is less than 1%. So it don't have any impact on the outcome. So you're not making it more secure. You're just doing something to people to make more barriers for them to vote. I agree with that,
and some of the articles and some of the news research that I did see, that they said it's really not going to help them.
No.
So that really made me dive even deeper. I'm like, why would they do something?
It will help them. I'll tell you why it help them.
Okay.
It galvanizes the base. It galvanizes the base to make them come out in 2 years. Because guess what? You're going back to the numbers.
Yep.
This was a record turnout in 2020.
It was.
For both parties. Trump lost, and Trump would have gotten the most votes in history if it wasn't for what Joe Biden got.
Yep.
Right?
Which,
you know, and now here's another thing, too.
Skeptical about that.
So my point, you can be skeptical, but the numbers are the numbers that we all have to live by, right?
Yeah, we all
because
have to live by,
we were skeptical when he beat Hillary, you know, but we had to accept it, right? So I would just suggest that if they're not trying to impact the intent of the bill, they're trying to impact the people who they want to slow down from voting.
So let me go here.
I think
go ahead, Tim.
No, I was just going to say, I think it's to regain control. So I want you to think about the noise that was made without saying a thing. So you got 7 Caucasian guys. You got a painting of a plantation in the background. And
Speak, Tim.
An African-American woman.
Speak, Tim.
A representative that's arrested for knocking on a door.
Speak, Tim.
So I think it's a illustration of
it's good.
We
have
to gain control.
Speak, Tim.
It's good theater. It's good theater to cause an emotional reaction for black people.
Take the emotion out of it.
Joe,
why wasn't there a member of the LGBTQ community, the community who the Democratic Party has put on a pedestal and pretty much kick black people in their ass? Like, hey, wait y'all's turn. It's all about them now.
Yeah.
Well, what do you mean it's all about them? We helped y'all win the election. You fell for that one again. Like, why couldn't you get that person?
So
like, they do these things to elicit an emotional response.
Go ahead, Tim.
No, I was just going to add. So you think about it. When Keagan was referencing, so they set it up. It's a crime now. You give out food, water within 150. I think it's 150 yards. Mm-hmm. And you think about when I voted this year, I stand in line for 4 hours. Mm. So think about African Americans that. So in corporate, for my particular company, we gave everyone up to 4 hours.
Yeah.
So imagine those that now I'm conditioned to, man, I can't stand for this long.
Yep.
Despite the cause.
Yep.
It's a great cause, but now I got to get back to work.
That's
so
good.
now I got to go back by the house and I got to do. So it's conditioned to keep us out.
I agree with
and hold on, let me say this, Joe. What he's talking about is the economic strain.
Yes.
You have to make a choice between going to your job and going to the election.
Yep.
And you don't get to really view or compartmentalize the election being a barrier on your future or a catapult in your future. You have to choose an immediate result.
But what I'm saying is it doesn't only apply to black people, especially in Georgia, in the Atlanta area. We know that's Chocolate City. It's very applicable to them, but in the very rural areas of Georgia, because Georgia is a very rural state, it applies to everybody. It's not just an Atlanta bill. Everybody in the state of Georgia is going to feel the effects of this bill. It's going to apply to everyone, I should say.
But think about Atlanta's geography and the demographics. Because the city is expanding so far, counties that used to be Republican are now turning Democratic because people are moving out so far. Mm-hmm. Yep. So it ain't just Atlanta no more, right? It's Snellville. It's a bunch of different places outside of Atlanta. It's like maybe 45 minutes to an hour out there and now becoming Democratic. Let me ask you a question, Joe.
Facts.
So the bill that was passed, you cannot put a provisional ballot into the box before 5 p.m., right? Only between 5 p.m. and 7 p.m. on election day. What makes the election more secure did I say you can't put it in there between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m.?
No, I agree. It doesn't. Yeah.
So here's my point. The reason why they're using the word race is because things was done to carve up a particular execution to impact a certain group of people in a certain way. It's no different than gerrymandering. They cut it, slice it to fit their own agenda because your boy, Lindsey Graham said after they lost the election, if we don't figure out how to stop absentee ballots from being cast, a Republican will never get elected again. Verbatim quote.
Yeah, and think about that window of time. So last year was the first year, and it was 24/7. You know, and now we shrink the hours in terms of where your normal work goer, that's typically their hours of operation.
Is it more so class than it is race? Because I think now it's
really stretching.
Can we say now with the damage that's been done, it's synonymous?
The
damage that's been done, it's synonymous.
That's a strike.
That's a great point. Yeah. That is a great point. I don't have any right now. I don't have anything to refute that point. So I'm going to live in the present right now because I mean I know black people, as Steve always eloquently states, and it's true, we're not one monolithic group. We're different.
Of course,
we come from different backgrounds. I think now, as we speak, because there are a lot of poor. I think black people, we act like we're the only poor people that exist. I know Joe Biden said that, but that's not true. Black people aren't the only poor.
You know, let me give you another nugget. Do you know why? It's the reason why we're poor. It's not that we are. It was just not done on our own merit. We just didn't wake up 400 years ago and say, you know, I just want to be poor.
If you want to use that as an excuse,
I don't hear us talking about
my grandparents.
I don't hear us talking about reparations for Caucasians.
Like I don't. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Tim. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Tim. Say it again.
No, I was just saying I don't hear us talking about reparations for Caucasians.
No, you're right. But I'm saying, like right now, listen, we know that the goalposts are always going to be moved. We have to understand that. Listen, this is what it is. That's not going to change. But right now, it's more so about plug that thing in for the battery, big dog. It's more so about class because when you think about it, like you stated, Tim, it really doesn't affect you. It doesn't affect me. It really doesn't affect a lot of members of my family in my circle. It really affects people who are of the working class, who come from a lower SES background, because there are a lot of poor white people. We are not the majority in this country. We are the minority. White people get impacted more. And a lot of white people are going to feel this. Probably more white people are going to feel this just as much as the black people. So we can't act like it's inherently racist. I think it's more of a class thing. That's why I didn't look at it as a race bill. It's like they only want a certain segment of people voting who think like them, who have the same beliefs as them. And if you happen to look white, that's great. If you happen to look black, okay, we'll accept it. But the most important thing is that you think like me and you don't have the same barriers as I face. I can go out and vote anytime I want to. It's just because of my class.
If I can give you a rebuttal on one thing you said, I'm also going to co-sign something that you said as well, because I want to be fair. White people make up 22% of the poor population in this country. 22%. They get 61% of government assistance benefits.
Say that again.
White people make up 22% of poor people in this country. They get 61% of government assistance benefits.
61%.
Right? So black people make up 47% of the poor people in this population. So it's not just blacks and whites, to your point. There's other folks who are part of that group. But the leading group in that particular area is black folk.
Yeah.
Right?
But again, the reason why we there.
Oh no, I'm not.
I'm saying, that's what I'm saying. They got when you got every advantage and you don't make it.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you.
That's a different experience.
You got every advantage, you don't make it.
No, but here's what I'm saying is, I think the narrative is that white folks are poor too. Well, not all. It's a very small population. And also, we always say that black folks get all the welfare. Well, no, we don't.
No, we don't. I'm so glad I made you say it twice for a reason.
Yeah, so I want to make sure we're clear on that. But I do want to quote something you said as a registered Democrat. I do not agree with identity politics. I don't agree with that. And I think if we don't change our tune, we will get mopped every election, because that never is a winning strategy against a party that has gerrymandered us to death.
And that's why I remember you saying something a couple of years ago about being a change agent and how we move and navigate. Because I want to go to Tim's story in a minute, but how we move and navigate. How do we help our people? What is the best court? Because we know the problems. We talked about the problems, but we want to be a solution-based podcast. So let's talk about what is the solution to this, what we have, because we can talk about, what's going on. Joe, what is your solution to all of this?
That's a great question, and I'm glad you brought this up, because how many of the audience, I know everyone here is probably familiar with Roland Martin.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Yes, we are. I
Did
think
y'all-
a lot of folks are familiar with Roland Martin.
Get my iPad.
Did y'all catch the interview that Roland Martin did with the young brother from Georgia?
What's his name? I think I seen it on Twitter.
King Randall.
I think I seen it on Twitter.
I didn't see it.
Here's what
Well, he built them schools, right? Yeah.
Here's what the solutions. And solution number one is that we have to stay away from individuals like Roland Martin, Michael Eric Dyson, individuals who,
They
no
coming for
matter
you, bro.
what,
They're going to come for you.
they are ride or die for the liberal and Democratic Party. It's black and white. They don't care if someone with opposing views has a plan that's going to help black people collectively. If it goes against anything that the Democratic or the liberals stand for, they don't want to have nothing to do with you. This young brother was on the Roland Martin show, 21 years old, building schools. He said he's not worried. He wants to change the narrative. He wants to change young black boys' minds to not be reliant on the government, to do for self, to build back our own communities, empower ourselves. That's why he's building these schools. You know what this coon Roland Martin wanted to do? All he wanted to do was argue down this 21-year-old king and talk about why it's important to vote and why we need the government. He was like, okay, I'm hearing all your points, but what I'm saying is how we correct this thing, to Steve's point, we got to start focusing on ourselves. We got to build back our own community. We have to create our own politicians. We can't be so reliant on the government. Those are tangible solutions. But no one wants to hear that, especially, and I'm not trying to come for the Democrats. As Stephen A. would say, I'm a registered independent. You know, that's not true. I don't vote in national elections because I think all politicians, especially like individuals running for the office of presidency, is BS. I see through it. It's all a game. It's just to keep people divided. I'm not falling for that. Vote in your local elections where change hits you directly.
You think it's entertainment? Everything past that.
It's pure entertainment. So that's
It's figureheadish.
Yeah, it is.
So that's where we need to start. There are a lot of great young minds like a King Randall, like a 21 Keys. There are old school guys like I'm spacing out right now that I listen to.
Like a Steve Talbot.
What? Yeah.
Like a Joe Barr.
Yeah.
Who's the guy who I always talk about? The old
Umar?
guy. No, gosh, no.
Don't do that, Steve. Don't do that, Steve.
The financial guy. He was on the Breakfast Club.
I don't know who you talking about on the financial guy.
Yeah.
I don't think
Dr.
Dave
Boy-
Ramsey.
From Earn Your Leisure.
Oh, Dr. Boyce.
Dr. Boyce Watkins
Oh,
and
Boyce.
his mentor.
Mm-hmm.
There are people out there who really have tangible solutions. We need to listen to these guys. Stop listening to the controlled opposition. Stop listening to athletes and musicians that are bought and paid for by the Democratic Party. Let's focus on ourselves, and then we can get some tangible solutions.
Tim, what you think the solution is, my guy?
Well, I just want to ask Joe a question really quick. So when you think about you're not voting in national elections because it's entertainment, like what's the dichotomy in that mentality and my vote doesn't count?
Well, here's the thing. The votes do count. I'm not saying that, but I'm looking at it for just me personally. I always preface it that way. From George W. Bush, and I'm starting when I was, in college and of voting age. George W. Bush, after George W. Bush, Barack Obama, after Barack Obama, Donald Trump, and now we're in Joe Biden. My life has not changed. They haven't affected one aspect of my life whatsoever. They don't impact how my day goes. They don't impact or dictate how I feel. I know the narrative, and they push it out there that if you don't vote for this person, and if this person gets back in office, you're going to be back in chains. That was a narrative about Donald J. Trump, just to be quite frankly speaking. That's just not true. And I mean, there are so many things that presidents have to jump through. You have to get approved by the Congress. It has to go through the Senate. It has to do all this and all that. Nothing really changed. The only big changes that have happened over the past years are the Patriot Act by George W. Bush. Of course, we had wars, and Obama had Obamacare, which really didn't affect me either. So those are really the big changes that have happened, but they really haven't affected. Has your life been impacted?
The answer,
I would say you wouldn't left off bad emoji.
No.
Go ahead, Tim.
I would just say I corroborate what Joe says. I think it starts in the local election. And think about the magnitude of the national election. Like most people, they magnify the national election to where we're not encouraged to participate locally. So I think it's building within your own community.
That's a round of applause.
Creating exposure.
That's a round of applause right
and
there.
And then just creating those mentoring, doing what you guys are doing.
Yeah.
Mentorship, continuing to show us and others that there's additional opportunities for us to continue to build up our own communities, and know that it's more than what we've just accepted for so long.
So before we get into Tim's story, I want you to go right to you. I want to go. What's your solution, Keagan?
Well, before I get to the solution, I want to have a rebuttal for that because what Joe said, we got to have a conversation about that.
Let's have a conversation about it then.
Yeah, I'm just saying, because that's one point that Joe made, I believe, should be heard, right? But let me say why they matter from a voting perspective. One of the first cabinet picks that Trump put in place was his AG, Jeff Sessions. We hear about William Barr because he's the second one, but Jeff Sessions was the first one. The first two things that Jeff Sessions did when he got in office, one was he stopped the DOJ from investigating local police precincts and officer-involved shootings. Who does that affect? Us. The second thing that he did, no, that's true. The second thing that he did, the second thing that he did, yeah, because without some kind of accountability to a police precinct, they will run wild. And I'm going to tell you, and we're going to talk about Baltimore PD. The second thing he did was he stopped consent decrees. For those who don't know what a consent decree is, a consent decree is something that the government hands down to an institution or agency when they have done something wrong to a group of people, i.e., a company I used to work for, I'm not going to call their name, they got caught redlining from an insurance perspective. Court went to court, they settled out of court. The government says you got to do X, Y, and Z to provide some kind of help to the people that you impacted, right? Baltimore PD was under a consent decree because of what happened to the young man. Was it Freddie Gray?
Yep.
Yeah.
Freddie Gray. And they also found so many other examples of racism in the police department. They was under a consent decree. That went away when Justice made that thing happen. So it may not happen directly to you, Joe, because you have not been put by a police officer, but it happened to somebody else. And there was no one at the federal level to hold that police precinct accountable for doing something bad. That is a problem. So yeah, the vote does matter in that regard because that's the kind of decision that happens that impacts us directly from federal level that we have no help for, right? Now, I would say some of the solutions that, and we can have a rebuttal for that if you want. I just want to make sure I made that counterpoint. But the solutions I say will start is, to your point, one is a vote does matter, and that came to be proven last election, right? So your vote does matter. Anything you want to take away from you, trust me, it matters. If it didn't matter, they would not put out that voter bill in Georgia.
And that's it.
Right.
But so let's go here. We got a special guest, man. And I want to get to this because, and you'll get back.
We'll come back.
We'll come back to that, Joe. Joe, you've been on one. But we got to give my man some time, man. Because listen, bro, this guy, I'm going to tell y'all, man, this guy means a lot to me. We don't talk every day, man. We got this type of, I don't know. It's just like a Bluetooth Ray type. We ain't got to even speak every day, but we know that it's what it is. It's up every time we talk to each other, man. I'm extremely proud of this guy, man, and I want to just really go into his story and dive into him. So, thank you for being with us, man. But I want to ask you, man, tell me about your childhood and, kind of how you grew up, where you grew up, and tell the people a little bit about that experience.
Okay. Again, thank you for the opportunity. I'm super excited to be here. And again, I grew up, started in Greenwood, South Carolina, so from the same place, and then If those of you that are familiar with Greenwood, there was a shooting at Oakland Elementary.
I remember that shooting. I remember that. My cousin was there.
Yeah, my brothers and I, we were going to that school at the time, and then we moved to Abbeville, 2nd or 3rd grade, and we were probably lower middle class. And my mother, she was a registered nurse. My dad was active physically, but emotionally he wasn't there. Again, we kind of talked about how my dad ran the streets.
How did it affect you at just you personally at a young age? I mean, I know you articulated that and the effects it had on your mom, but what type of effect did it have on you as a young child, knowing your dad was kind of, not present in the moment?
Yeah, I think it allowed me to search for purpose in other places.
Gotcha.
So when I think about my pops at a young age, my pops sold drugs. And so I'm the youngest of 3 boys.
Gotcha.
And my oldest brothers did something similar, and then I ended up doing the same thing.
Wow.
So I think
what age did you start?
I was a teenager, so probably 14,
gotcha.
14, something like that. So and it was just what we knew. It was natural to us.
So you didn't feel no sense of like morality. It wasn't like, oh, I'm doing something wrong. It was just the next baton, like clothes being handed down.
Yeah, and it was just an opportunity. And keep in mind, we were raised in a household where we were forced to go to church. It was faith based, and however, we still shied away and said we're going to run the streets because we thought that was the right way. And again, everyone in my neighborhood, all the guys that we grew up with in Abbeville, that was one of the things that we all did collectively.
Now, when you take me through your mind when you were on that journey and you were in that lifestyle, take me through your mind. Was it more survival? How did you feel during that time? Because you had to know you were taking a risk at some point in that development when you were doing that. You had to know it was risky at some point. How did you even feel about that risk? Did it feel like a risk at the time, or was it just like, this is just what it is?
Yeah, so it's always felt like a risk. Survival was a part of it, but I was also building an exit strategy. So football was an exit strategy for me. And one of the things, my brothers, they all did the same thing, but my goal was I thought I could outsmart the cops and I could be smarter than everyone. So my goal was to create a certain amount of income for myself until I went to college and played football. And
so you were athlete too.
Yeah.
So during that process, how did you, normally they're separate. Like if you grew up in you got dope boy over here, then you got the athlete over here. Yeah. How did you because that's a hard transition.
That's a good question.
That's a hard transition.
I'm telling you, bro, it was by the grace of God. It's my mother interceding for her 3 boys every night. I went to school in high school, put my drugs in the locker, had class, went to football practice, and immediately after walked to the projects and set up. Yeah. Like that was a part of what we did. And it was just normal to me. Like that was just what I did. I meet my brothers over there. We were a part of this game called Southside 3rd Ward. And
tell me about a little bit about what is the identity. Tell me about gang life a little bit. What does that encompass? Because I want these boys to understand the psychology behind this. What was that like for you being a part of that?
Yeah, so for us, it was just we grew up with all these guys down in Abbeville called Secession. We called it Southside, and then we had these guys. And keep in mind, Abbeville is extremely small.
Of course, absolutely.
So we had these guys that were on the west side of town, and we just called it, all right, we're going to be called Southside, 3rd Ward. We constantly fought these guys on the other side of town. We set up shop on our side of the town, and they were the enemy. With the exception of Calhoun Falls, we always got into it with guys on the other side of the town. And I'm just telling you, man, it was a sense of belonging. I've always been a leader, and one of the things that it was all about money to me, whereas my brother, he was a fighter. My brother always.
What's up, B.I.?
Yeah, my brother was a fighter. He constantly was out in the streets fighting. And for me, I felt fighting, like drama and money didn't mix. So my goal was only time I got into a fight is when I was around my brother. Anytime my brother got into it, I would get into it.
So question for you, Tim. So were you more comfortable getting into the life because your brothers were in it? Because you talk about risk, Steve. I'm wondering if because your brothers was in it, did it make you feel a little bit more, I don't want to use the word safe, but a little bit more comfortable doing it versus being around a bunch of friends and strangers?
Yeah, I think there was a sense of obligation because based on exposure, I thought that was the path.
Gotcha.
Because my oldest brother, my dad did it, so my oldest brother, my middle brother, and then so I have to do the same thing.
Gotcha.
But there was a difference to where they didn't play sports. My middle brother played some, but I had a different gift.
Gotcha.
And so I had encounters when I was in school to where, man, I've been searched multiple times with drugs on me, and I thought I was smarter than the police. I would wear swimming trunks, and I would come out the house. I would literally come out the house. I would have a scale, and I would have hard, which is crack cocaine, and then I would have an ounce of weed at a time. And then if anybody wanted weight, I felt I could go back home and get it. And I never had it in separate bags because I was like, if I got pulled over, they can just hit me with simple possession. They can't get me with intent to distribute.
Gotcha.
So I always try to feel like I can outsmart the cops, and I kept it in my swimming trunks. And I mean, literally, I've gotten searched multiple times. If they would have brought the dogs, then they would have potentially got me. But I just think, man, I attribute it to my mother praying for me. And I remember the last time my junior year in high school, the resource officer that we had on staff, he got me on a Friday. He said, look, Tim, my chief has been asking me to get you all week. And he's like, he took me to the local police station.
Wow.
They took me to DJJ, and they just dropped me off. I didn't even know why I was there. And so I called my mother. She reached out to an attorney in Greenwood called Stephen Gioli. And he's like, you don't have anything on my client. You better get him from down there or it's going to be a civil suit. And when that officer was taking me to DJJ, he's like, man, you have too much potential in football to really get caught up in this lifestyle. He's like, man, this has to be the turning point in your life. And that was one of the turning points I had. Another one was in college. But from that point on, I still sold some drugs, but I was more focused on football.
How did you feel? Did you ever get to a point to where you felt like you was harming your community? Did you ever feel a sense of like, you know, I'm making money, but I'm still, I see this fiend over here. I see these people over here. How did, you know, was that something that drove you away from, what drove you away from it? Because you're sitting here, because if you were still, you probably wouldn't be sitting here. What drove you really away from it?
Quite honestly, it was more football. Like I didn't even, I was numb to that part.
Oh, wow, that's good.
Even I would tell you, my brothers and I, again, my dad is doing phenomenal now. He's an entrepreneur, has his own business. But when my dad was out there and my dad was smoking crack cocaine, like my brothers and I, we would serve him because we felt like, hey, you got to get it elsewhere. You may as well keep it in-house. Like that was our mentality.
So it wouldn't be laced or anything. So gotcha.
So we were more focused on the financial means. And then again, it was, oh, I got an opportunity to play college football, and this is the way that I can differentiate myself from those that are in my community, and then potentially come back and extend my hand.
You know, I'm glad you said that because there's always this stigma out there, like a drug dealer, you can't trust them. They'll even sell to their own family. But what he said is key, like, because I work in the field of addiction and recovery, and they will put anything inside of these drugs if you're not a drug dealer with, you know, a little bit of integrity and honor. So if you understand the disease of addiction, and you know that once a person is addicted to a substance and they have that use disorder, they're going to use no matter what, no matter who it comes from. If I am in that field, then I'm going to look out for my loved one and like, listen, you're not going to use these drugs. At least I'm selling you these drugs. I know where they come from. I know where they are. So I just want to throw that out there. Like, I know that's often like the narrative they put out there, like they even sell to their own family members. Well, there's a reason now. And that was unbeknownst to me. So I'm glad you did share that.
Yeah. And in the moment, I mean, that was definitely a level of conviction, but I think the monetary means superseded that conviction in the moment. And like I said, and I just kind of went to college, played football, and had an opportunity. You know, Steven, that's where I knew Steve from high school because, again, we played against one another. But then I went to college. I sold some weed when I was in college. So I left the crack cocaine.
We talked about it one time.
Yeah, I still sold some weed in college, man. But it was
now it's legal.
Yeah, and I felt
not
like
in this state.
Yeah, I felt like you know, college, that was my turning point because I felt I was good enough to play at the next level in the NFL. But
absolutely.
College gave me the realization that it was more to life than football. So I dropped the class my freshman year, and it put me below my credit hours. And so it made me a part-time student to where I could no longer participate in sports or stay on campus. And one of the guys named Dr. McCormick, you know, he leveraged his position to say, hey, I'm going to still allow you to stay on campus as a part-time student, but what matters most to you is football. I'm not going to allow you to play. And so I went home. My roommate, Dexter Baylor, he took me home, and I was like, man, I didn't go to North Greenville to be a regular student. Like, I went to play football. I could have went to any school. And, man, I kid you not, when I got home, my mom was weeping, and she was to the point to where I thought that was the school for you. And in that moment, I realized it was more to life than football. And I had the coaches calling me. They're like, look, you can travel with us to every game. You can still work out. And after that weekend, I rolled back to school with my buddy Isaac Tate. And that's when I started to think about, like, what are some of the things I can do post-football. And that's kind of brought me to where I am now in my journey.
So how did you? So you talk about football. What did it? Because obviously, if it led you out of that life, what did football mean to you? And why did you want to go to college and play football? What was the burning desire there?
I would just tell you, it was a ticket out. Football was everything to me, and I think that was just culturally how I was raised. Like, it's sports. And that's what we deem success, how we identify it is playing sports, going to school. And I knew I had the potential to play at the next level. So it was, how can I show up every day, put in the work and grind to try to achieve something that I felt was possible. And I'll say this, and I played with Tim. And listen, bro, Tim got, some people got strength, and there are some people that just got, that type of strength that you can't get from, only God gives you that type of strength. Like, they call him Cotton Diesel, where we from. Yeah. Tim was one of those guys. And I'm not playing with you, bro. Tim is different, strong. I've seen Tim punish people. But it was funny that you came to North Greenville, you was premier. Tim Tim really could have played further than college. Wow. But there was an obstacle there. There was we had a coach. He had a certain player that he liked, and Tim had to overcome some obstacles. Tim, talk about that a little bit, because I know Tim, you are a super athlete. I mean, I don't want people to think that this is you know what it takes to go to college and play ball and to be a starter and actually produce. Tim was better than good enough to do that. And there was somebody in front of him that I ain't going to say stunted his growth, but I'm going to say that he couldn't display his full array of talents. And I know that frustrated you. I know that put you in a position like, golly, how did you overcome that, man? Because you eventually became one of our most important players. How did you fight through that? Knowing you were probably the better player too as well. If we're being told, other guy was really good, but if we're being honest, production, consistency over and over and over and over and over, that translates. Tim was our guy, but it was just a different game back then. But go ahead, Tim. Yeah, I think I mirror it to corporate where I am now. So there's a direct parallel to where I've sat under people that I know I was greater than.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah,
and I think my mother's faith built me a part of that. So you know you belong, you're destined to be great. So don't pout about it when things don't work out in your favor. And I think we built in a society where we glean towards microwave success.
That's good.
And you got to continue to put in the work despite whether others favor you or not. Yeah. And our head coach, we're even friends on Facebook now, and I never thought we would be friends on Facebook.
Hey, Coach Taylor watched the show too. Yeah. He DM'd me. He watched the show. Yeah, what's up, Coach Taylor?
And I just think it was to a point to where this guy is so great, I have to play him. Yeah. Even though I didn't necessarily care for him to the degree of the starter. Like, I know for a fact from a stat standpoint, opportunity standpoint, it stunted my growth because of the minimal exposure that I had. But it gave me a different, I've had a different mindset coming from middle school to high school. It's always been so many different obstacles in the way. I just saw it as the next thing.
And you were a superstar at high school too. And people don't understand, and I want to say this about athletes. When you come from being a legend at a certain place, and somebody minimizes that at the next level because there's a lot of, in college, it's politics, it's scholarships. When you get to certain, and even in the pro, you know how it works in the pro. So when you get to certain levels where money's being exchanged, where there's boosters, where there's things going on like that, things gotta happen. I'm not saying that's the case. I'm not castigating that at all. But what I'm trying to say is that's a part of the equation. And guys like Tim, who have superstar talent, get left astray. But And Tim is the exception to the rule because he overcame it. Yeah. And Tim, so you go from there, you have a successful career, your senior year, you do great, and you post college. So you get your education, and you get a master's degree, correct?
Yeah.
So you got that, and now you in Verizon Wireless and you're in this corporate environment. Tell us about that and how you navigated through that, and tell us how your street experiences now has helped you, combine or parallel both your life right now.
Yeah, so a couple things. When I started directly out of college, I was looking for an opportunity. I knew I didn't want to go back to the streets. Mm-hmm. I no longer wanted to sell drugs. Dude, post-college, like I had an opportunity to still meet someone and, sell soft. So it was soft cocaine and meet a guy. And I had never been so nervous in my life. So I knew at that point, it was no longer for me. And so once I did that, I went to Verizon like, hey, I'm looking for an opportunity. I had an opportunity for Verizon in a place called Ford Motor Credit. Did some research. One of my best buddies, Andre Aiken, he was working at Verizon.
What up, Dre?
Got some feedback from him, and he's like, I think this will be the place for you. And look, all I ever did was hustle. I never had any experience. Worked some at a group home in college, but it was just to have something to do and make some money because I was used to a certain amount of money. And once I got there, you had all these people coming to your class and they talk to you. Hey, you got enough money in my 401k to pay my house? Oh, you control your own destiny. You create these opportunities. And I'm like, well, hey, nobody's going to judge me because I got tattoos. It's solely about a performance-based culture. And so when I got there, I didn't know how to navigate through the system. I just reached out to people and said, hey, how do I accomplish this? And when I initially started, my goal was to get them to pay for my master's degree, and I wanted to coach and teach. Wow. Because I only thought I could associate coaching with football and not knowing that I can do it in corporate as well.
That's good. That's
good.
So
I did well. I was a customer service agent. Started out on the phones. I was on the phone for a year, and God continued to elevate me through my journey there.
Absolutely.
I was recognized as one of the top agents. I was the top agent, of the year. And then I transitioned to supervisor of customer service. And my teams did well. I was top supervisor for multiple years. And then I transitioned to an associate director role. And then in that time, it was interim. And what's really interesting is that think about going into an interview knowing that you don't have a shot prior to going in there. Because my previous boss, she set me up and said, look, the guy already knows who he wants, but he still has to interview you. So I go in there, and then this guy's asking me about LeBron James. And so I'm like, well, he's not even giving me an opportunity. And I truly believe it was how I walked away and still went and served my team as a supervisor to where God allowed me to have an opportunity within that week. My boss went out on benefits, and I got an interim opportunity. And I thrived in that role, and my boss was coming back, and I had somewhat mastered that role, and I knew I was going back to a supervisor. So I had confided in my brother, and I was talking to him. I'm like, look, man, this lady's coming back. I think I've outgrown supervisors. My brother told me, he was like, man, look, bro, you're not going back to being a supervisor. And at the time, I was like, I hear you, but okay. And one of the things my brother told me that was super profound, he said, man, God will never change the picture to accommodate people. He'll always change people to accommodate the picture. And so you've been destined to be an associate director.
That's good.
So that's where you're going to remain. And my boss came back, and she was terminated within 24 hours. And so I knew I had the opportunity to get it permanently.
That's good.
And the same guy that didn't give me an opportunity, something happened with him to where he was no longer the director, and he brought in a director that I never met this guy in my life, and caused me to have favor with a guy that I didn't even know. And so it was my hustle ambition that I took from the streets to corporate that have allowed me to continue to elevate and serve and just continue to motivate and inspire people, because I've been exposed to it all. So for every reason you tell me you can't make it, I can tell you why you can.
Yeah.
And before I go to the next thing with you, what position do you serve right now at Verizon?
Senior manager of
So you went from a dope boy to a senior manager in a Fortune 500 company.
That's what's up, man.
It's favor of God.
Wow.
Tell me that's not heroism. Look,
No question.
you're seeing the product. And if he can do it, anybody can. Let me go here, Tim, because so you played football. Tim played fullback and running back too as well. So that means that you have to you're a little stocky. So Tim, prior to this, you battled some weight issues.
Yep.
Niggas can't be short. And you can't be short and fat. You got to pick one struggle.
Facts.
You got to pick one struggle in life, bro. You cannot be short and fat. So, but what I'm saying is, I know prior to you going through your journey, I know that was a source of contention for you. I know that was something that cost you to hide, something that cost you to kind of live in the shadows a little bit. And it's a struggle getting weight off. Yeah. Joe, you battled with that before too. And I want people to know that that's a mental thing more than it's a physical thing too as well. It's how you see yourself, how you feel about yourself, Tim. So you battle with that, and if you can look at this guy now, you can see that he ain't battling with that now. Nah. Tell me the moment, Tim, that it changed for you. Tell me the moment your cognitive dissonance came in where you said, I can't do this no more, bro. Just what was that moment for you?
Yeah, I'll tell you. One of the things that's interesting is that I've been at Verizon 13 years now, and we've always had phenomenal benefits, but I haven't always taken advantage of them. And so 2015, I had my annual physical. And it was, I had no boundaries, pizza, spaghetti, whatever. Those are some of my favorite foods back then. And I was like, man, I done put on a couple pounds. I probably go in maybe 240, something. And, dude, I went in. I still keep the paperwork because I always refer back to what's possible. And I was 271 pounds. And from that day, I was like, I'm too short to be that close to 300. And from that moment, I'm like, my life has to change. And I've done some stuff back in college. We tried to do Atkins and South Beach diet, but we never committed. We would probably do it for a month or so. And from that moment, I'm like, I'm sticking to whatever. And that's the encouragement for anyone that's embarking upon a fitness journey, is that you got to know your body is changing and your life is changing because you're doing something different despite what the scale may say. And that's what I did. I committed to it. I went to low sodium and sugar, mixed some keto in there, and just created my own routine, because I can give you advice, but that doesn't necessarily mean it'll work for you. So you got to continue to train yourself and see what's possible for your body. And for me, I started, the appropriate weigh-in for me was bi-weekly. And I started losing inches before I started losing pounds. And at my lowest, I got to 190. I sit at about 205 right now. And my sweet spot is between 195 and 205. But I've always been a disciplined guy, but it built a totally different level of fortitude I didn't know existed. And hence, it birthed my fitness brand, which is DOD Fitness. There you go. And it's an acronym for discipline over desire. And so it was built upon fitness, but it applies to all phases in life, whether that's finances or if you're disciplined and put off your desires, it's sky's the limit.
And I'm glad you said that, Tim, because with my journey, and I won't go into it because it's about you today, when I did accomplish that goal, it just gave me the confidence to be like, man, what else can I do? So that's what it really is.
And think about how many people get it off but put it right back on.
Yep.
And I thought about it, like most people are like, man, I need to reward myself with a cheat meal. And I'm like, why would I reward myself for something I should be doing anyway? I should be taking care of myself anyway. And being healthy is the goal, and then looking good is just a byproduct.
Yes.
But
That's
I remember I used to be scared to take my shirt off, and now I can't keep it on. So it was just a transformation. And there was some confidence issues there.
So let me ask you this question, Tim. This is a deeper question I want to ask you too. When you did lose the weight, did you still see yourself as that fat guy? Did you ever struggle to not see yourself that way, since you've seen yourself so many years that way? How did you build your confidence? Because I know it was built more than through your physical. How did you transform your mind?
Well, I think it was all a part of that initial journey.
Gotcha.
So as I built myself physically, I also built myself mentally. And most people, and I think about it, I just blocked out the distractions, and I just committed to the process. Because think about it, I used to think back that people would be like, "Oh, you fresh to be big," or he's fast to be big, and I'm like, what does that mean? You either fast or you're not.
It's like you pretty to be dark skinned. That's what that means. So, you pretty to be.
And so I just conditioned myself to say, like, this is the goal. This is the bar, and I'm not lowering it. The goal is I need to reach the bar. And so I just stayed committed to the grind. And hence, we're 6 years in, and my grind is the same that it was in 2015. Like,
how many times a day you work out? Do you work out every day?
Yeah, I work out every day.
You don't miss a day.
Yeah, so I'm always doing something. Even on Sundays, I may just go out for a run. And I never was a long distance guy, but I've ran a half marathon before. And my goal was if I could break for 100 yards on the football field and no one catch me, I'm good.
Yeah.
Tim, let them know, like the audience, like how long a half marathon is.
12.2. Yeah,
that's a long time to run.
12.2 miles.
People don't realize.
Yeah.
And I just tell you, man, like I'm so proud of myself that I was able to accomplish it simply because I've always been in the gym. So most people are like, you need to get in. I've been in the gym my entire life.
You have. I can attest to that. Yeah.
The difference is the cardio and my commitment to nutrition.
So it's interesting that you never suffered from body dysmorphic disorder. So so it was like a gradual, like you were smaller longer than you were bigger?
Yeah, so I was always like stocky and husky. Like I've never just been loose.
No, he wasn't loose. Yeah,
I've never been loose. And keep in mind, like we were raised to eat everything on that plate.
Yep.
You know, so that was
Don't
the
waste
mentality.
nothing.
Don't waste anything.
Yeah.
And so I've always just tried to, you know, and that was in post college. It worked for me because I was still so active.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, post college and football, it was optional.
Yeah.
Like I still go to the gym. And one of the things I had to get over too was it's okay not to be the strongest person in the gym. Like that was one of the things I had to overcome.
You was a bench legend.
I'm just telling you, man, like it was getting in there, okay, let me warm up 315, hit it 15 times, and then let me go up to 405 or whatever. And that was a psyche to where that masculinity, you gotta be the strongest person, macho man. And now I'm like, bro, my bones and everything are more important to me. I'm not trying to ache at night. I'm trying to take care of myself and continue to progress.
Before we end the podcast, I want to ask you two things. I want to talk about Deshaun real quick with the Clemson and Florida State dynamic. But I want to ask you this, Tim, how do you want to be remembered? How do you want people to see your life? Why are you doing all of this? What is it for?
Yeah, I think this is interesting because I talk to my leaders about legacy. What do people get when they get you, and what do people lose when they lose you?
Ooh, that's
so
good.
When we talk about corporate, and it's okay, if I'm your supervisor, is Steve excited to go to the next person team, or do I want to come back to Tim team? And so for me, it's a glimpse of what's possible. Because sometimes we allow our circumstance to determine our progress. And so we can't use that as an excuse. We have a victim mentality, and sometimes we got to continue to block that out and say, like, if the ceiling was limitless, what would transpire?
You are inspiring the shit out of me right now.
No question.
And that's how I want to be remembered.
Tim.
My
leader.
God.
He's a pure leader, Steve.
Yeah.
He's a pure leader.
Yeah.
So
That is phenomenal.
So that's how I want to be remembered. How do you make the impossible possible? Continue to leave my imprint on everyone that I interact with. And I heard Bishop T.D. Jakes say one time, it's just as important what you leave in people than what you leave to people. And so
That's good.
Every opportunity.
We'll take the message on that now.
And every opportunity that I have to interact with people, and I want to be remembered from somebody that inspired somebody to keep going, keep pressing, knowing that giving up is non-negotiable. Like that's not even an option. My
God. Listen, I want to say this before we go. So, Joe, you want to ask this question? Because you're a Florida State fan, and y'all obviously arch. For everybody, Tim, talk about how you became, before we go there, you can transition, because you can answer the question too. Tell me about, because you're a really big Clemson fan. Like, you go to the games. How did you become a Clemson fan? Because you wasn't always a Clemson fan. And tell us about the program and what drew you to the program.
So a couple things. Haven't always been verbal being a diehard Clemson fan. I think
it's cool to say now.
Yeah, one of the no. First of all, I was a diehard Clemson fan when we were still down. But in my upbringing, one of the best guys that ever played for Abbeville was named Lil Munt Evans, and he played for Clemson. Yeah. Went to Houston Texans, played in the NFL, and I remember one of my mentors, Tony Temple. He's still coach at Abbeville to this day. He used to take us to college games, and just being a part of that environment in Death Valley, man, I was like, man, this is my team. It was the only exposure I had, and so now as I grew older, just seeing Tommy Bowden was all right. He wasn't a Dabo, and it just shows how you can inspire. Dabo's not the best coach. He's not from an X's and O's type guy.
He got some other issues too.
He can inspire guys. He can inspire guys to run through a wall, and that's what most kids are looking for. Inspiration.
Yeah. You don't always have to be an X's and O's person to be a
but you can put people around.
That's why you have OCs and DCs.
Yeah, you know your strengths and you know your weaknesses. What I will say about Clemson, and I was explaining this to one of my former employees. He's from Wisconsin. And what I was explaining to him, I was like, listen, Clemson, this has always been their fan base. This has always been the standard. Like, remember, Steve, growing up, Clemson, man, they would talk like they were this Clemson.
They wasn't.
The early 2000s.
They were not. Yeah, the early 2000 Clemson was not this Clemson.
There's no different than Gamecock fans, though.
Yeah.
Delusional. Zim, Theo, and Don. Delusional.
Clemson fans were delusional back then. But that's just the standards. You have to have that standard of excellence. So I don't knock that. And I will say this, and listen, I'm transparent, I'm honest, I pride myself on being the realest person on earth. Y'all have surpassed us legacy-wise, you know. Y'all have more conference championships than we do. And I will go a step further, and this is going to sound like blasphemy coming from a Florida State fan, but I feel like Dabo Swinney is a better coach than Bobby Bowden is. I think the difference between, they're very similar, and they run their programs. Dabo runs his program like Bowden did back in the 90s. The difference is, and what I love about Dabo, he has that edge. Bobby will be okay with losing. It bothers Dabo.
Yeah, Dabo, he's sharp. Dabo's sharp.
I'm a big Dabo Swinney fan, and he sticks to his beliefs and his convictions. And I know that's not popular these days.
It's definitely not.
But I respect that.
Because most people conform. That's who I want to be, a non-wavering type people. That's who I want to be.
But at what cost? What is the cost of not wavering all the time?
But I think if you're not wavering because of your own morality,
but the
cost does not matter.
Exactly. No, what I'm saying is that, I ain't gonna go into that. But Dabo got some issues. Well, he got some issues. We know that Dabo got some issues.
What issues?
All I'm saying is I'm not here to castigate Dabo.
We got time. The battery's full.
Dabo's.
Let's talk about it.
Listen. That's not my job to go into Dabo. All I'm saying is he got some issues. It ain't my. Listen, I don't judge him. I don't think he's. If you're asking me, I don't know if Dabo's racist. I know that Dabo is. I'm not. I don't know.
Everybody is racist.
I didn't. No, because I know that's what you were going. All I'm saying is I don't know that answer because I don't know Dabo. So I don't make that proclamation on people.
He's human.
No, but what I'm saying is he's a capitalist. He's an extreme capitalist when it comes to his stable.
I'm a capitalist.
He's lock stock with the NCAA.
Come on.
Dabo is a regular. He's an elite college coach. I think the same thing about Saban. I have no respect to person. I think to be an elite college coach, there's things you got. Yeah, all I'm saying, he got issues. I know Saban got issues too. I don't make no issues.
Though. Let's be fair.
Les Miles had issues.
We all got issues.
Like, we're not
if you're a man and once you reach to that point, we all strive.
You know what type of issues I'm talking about. But we'll leave that alone though.
To reach that point, anybody that from our past can say, "Yo, there's some things about Joseph. I could be accused of being a racist." Anybody. I mean, that's just such.
You think? I think you walk right into that.
I feel like
that was a waist top fastball. Got the middle of the plate.
Like especially nowadays, that's just such an easy card to deal. Like Dabo he's a Southern guy. I respect that. I'm a Southern guy. But I know that deep down inside, I don't know him. I always preface that conversation by saying I don't know him. But from the outside looking in, it looks like he really cares about his kids.
Yeah. And really I think that's in general. So even everyone in this room. Yeah. So there's things that our public character that we put forth, and most people wrestle privately. So I think that's not unique to Dabo. You know, when we think about, like, I think it may not be unique to Dabo, but Dabo has a different platform and he's responsible for a lot of people's future. So the responsibility on him and the reproach that we look at him, there's a different responsibility.
Dabo does not owe me an explanation.
I'm not saying he does.
He does not. I don't expect him to go out there and say Black Lives Matter and all that other BS.
You don't say Black Lives Matter.
I don't. I don't have to convince anybody that my life matters. I mean, my self-esteem and my self-worth and how I look at myself, that's all that matters. So it's like it's ridiculous as me going around saying Joseph's lives matter. Well, Joseph has convinced that his life matters.
The-
But
I just,
that's just how I feel. If you have to proclaim to other racial groups or people that your life matters, hey, that's on you. I'm just saying, I don't need you to validate my life. That's all I'm saying. No offense. Why are y'all so quiet?
because Keagan about to talk right now.
Oh, my bad.
I just wanted to, because I think sometimes you talk about personal responsibility. To your point about Dabo, if I'm a player and I've heard things about Dabo and I'm a talent and I got options, why do I go play there? Because whether he's a racist or not, I still make a decision to go play there.
And I'm not saying he is. I'm not saying that because I don't know that answer.
So I would caution people to think about, if that's what you believe, you got to question where you want to go play and who you want to play for, right? And for what reasons, So I don't know him to be a racist or not. There are some suspect things.
That's all I'm saying. There were some suspect, but that's it. That's all I'm saying.
But the one thing I would say is, and I'm a black man, I'm proud to be one. If you don't want your own speech to be policed, you gotta be careful how you police other people's speech, especially in their private moments. Right? I think that's just fair.
Yeah.
That's just fair. Now, when you do have a bully pulpit, there are certain responsibilities that come with that particular job because that's what you want. You want to lead a program in this country like a Clemson. There's certain things that come along. You got to be careful about what you say, what you do.
And they're a prominent. Listen, it's championships now. There's no making it to the playoffs. There's no 10-win seasons. Yeah. There's championship or bust.
How many chips does Dabo have?
He got
two. How many does Bobby Bowden have?
2.
Because you made a comment. I don't know. I think you say it all the time. We have a recency bias. That Florida State.
Because I disagree with you about the legacy.
Hold up. I think about who you talking to.
I know you're a Florida State fan.
But
I know he died hard.
I know Florida State like the back of my hand.
I'm a Hurricane fan. I don't talk about it a lot. I'm a Hurricane fan.
And y'all won 4 back in the 80s when there were championships that were left on the table.
That's
that were
facts.
Losses against Florida that were completely inexcusable that Dabo wouldn't have tolerated. That 1997.
You can't say that. You can't say that.
Boy, you going hard for Dabo.
That 19, and I'll pass on Florida State. That 1997 loss
embarrassing
against Florida.
That was embarrassing.
You could have gone and won the championship game after they embarrassed you in the Sugar Bowl. It's inexcusable. It's inexcusable. Dabo would not have lost that game.
Well, hold on. Let's be clear. There's some player issues there too. Players on that field, Joe. There was players on that field that did not do their job. Let's just be clear. My only point I wanted to say was we kind of get caught up in what's going on today, and we'll say something about in history. That Florida State program,
if they played in the college football era, they probably would have won 4 or 5 championships.
That Florida,
I agree.
Because the state of Florida, and I'm talking about just the Hurricanes and the Florida State Seminoles. I'm talking about Florida. Those 2 programs from the 80s through the mid 90s, they were tough to beat,
they
by
were
anybody in the country. Anybody.
2 championships is unacceptable.
Oh yeah, that's what I was gonna say too.
Yeah,
they should have
but
2.
They should have. That's
why
true.
are y'all so quiet? Because I live in Clemson Country. I live in Anderson County. I'm not too far from Pickens County. I listen to 105.5. You know what I'm talking about. Y'all, boy, back in 2013 and 2014, it was James. You would have thought it was Florida State radio the way y'all talked about Jameis Winston and his one transgression
about Deshaun
and his crab legs. But boy, they don't even want to talk about Deshaun. They put a poll up. People still believe that Deshaun Watson is innocent.
Tim, give us your take on that.
Yeah, I think it's similar to what we would do. Like, you protect those that you love. I mean, he transformed the program. Taj Boyd had some transformation there, but Taj couldn't win the big games.
Yeah.
Hence Florida State. I remember like yesterday, I broke my iPhone because of it.
There was a guy, Tim. There was a guy named Woody Dantzler that played there too, right?
And he was good. You remember he returned that punt for Dallas? Remember that? And they cut him right after that. We returned that punt for Dallas.
Michael Vick.
I'm a little older than everybody in the room, so I like to talk about history a little bit because we just talk about the last 10 years, like nothing else happened before the last 10 years. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm with you.
Oh no, I agree. Woody Dantzler was.
But
awesome.
Deshaun is the one who put Clemson on the map. Taj Boyd laid the foundation, but Deshaun is the one that built the beautiful home on top of that foundation.
Yeah, so my initial perspective when I heard it, I thought because I met him personally. I don't know him personally,
Yeah.
but I've met him personally, and I thought like I couldn't believe it. And then the volume started to come out, and I'm not minimizing what the accusations are.
Of course not.
But I think there are certain actions, whether it's guidance or whatever, he could have done things a little differently. If you're reaching out to individuals on Instagram, I think that's careless. But considering who he is, the magnitude of the individual he is, I want to see it play out. I don't want to say he's guilty.
He's guilty.
No, I can't corroborate that in the moment. I want to see it play out, but the volume does concern me.
Well,
But the timing is interesting. The timing is interesting.
And Joe, Joe, you have to admit that the timing is interesting as well. Let me ask you:
if I can work with Joe for a second, the timing is also a Houston Texan organization issue as well.
Yeah, and Joe, let me ask you this one question: if Deshaun Watson had decided to stay with the Houston Texans, would these allegations? Would they be?
No.
I answered that already. I articulated
The
that.
attorney is best friends with the owner.
No.
Go back and watch episode 5 of the
got
SteveJoe
receipts.
Podcast.
We got receipts.
When I started my
Was it
soliloquy.
I know.
We got receipts. We got
So
receipts.
who's
Joe.
I perfectly articulated like,
I know the protection.
You
I
laid
get
that
you.
out,
Yeah.
Joe. You laid that out. Laid it
Yeah.
out perfectly. You
and
did.
we're seeing this unfold. This isn't anything new. Now, what I want to say, and I didn't get to say this. Listen, we got time, fellas. Listen, Keagan articulated it perfectly and beautifully. I want to say that to all women who have been victims of sexual abuse and sexual violence, my heart goes out to you. I can't imagine being a woman. As a man, contrary to what the liberals are putting out there, I can never know what it feels like to be a woman. I can't imagine what my wife is a very attractive woman. Steve's wife is an attractive woman. We don't know what our wives go through every single day. You're going to have beautiful daughters. We don't know what they go through every single day. Predatorial behavior.
Yeah.
I can't imagine dealing with that every single day. So men, like Keagan said, we have to start calling these men out. And men, do you understand, like, and I got emotional about this because there was a story that broke earlier this year about this reporter, about how this baseball player sent this reporter an image of his penis. This reporter was so excited. I think she came from overseas. She went to school. When she lived in a different country, all she wanted to be was a sports journalist. Mm-hmm. And she was so excited to finally get this opportunity. And when she got this opportunity, this man violated her. Mm-hmm. All that energy, all that hard work, her dreams since she was a little girl to become a sports journalist was completely shattered by this guy's selfish act. They were massage therapists. All they wanted was to be a massage therapist. Mm-hmm. They put time, energy, and effort into this. And they finally got this big break. And they finally thought, man, I'm going to finally break through because I'm giving Deshaun Watson a massage. And he takes advantage of them.
Allegedly.
Let's be clear.
That's allegedly. He has not been convicted,
allegedly.
bro.
There's a lot of allegedlys.
And shatters.
I'm not.
Yeah. Like, put yourself in their shoes. Could you imagine working so hard? You being a little girl or a little boy, whatever, working so hard to get to this moment, and some predator just completely takes it away from you, and it makes you feel like you just wasted all that time. It's no different than when someone molests a child. You're taking their innocence.
Yeah.
They didn't come into this wanting to have sex with you or please you. This was their dream. This was their livelihood. This is what they've been working towards. And for you to do that is so selfish. And I don't have time for it. We got to start calling this stuff out.
We do. And
it's not acceptable. It's selfish.
And it is selfish. If you did it, it's selfish. Yeah. But I don't know if he did it. He's saying he did it. What I'm saying is I'm not going to just, what if he didn't do it?
He did do it.
But we don't know that, though. We don't know that.
Crucify that man.
And listen, if he did do it, send his ass to jail.
Facts.
No questions asked. I got 3 daughters. You know I'm riding for that shit.
Oh, yeah.
So I ain't playing about that. I know people who really been through that shit and affected by that. Yeah. So I ain't playing about that. But what I'm saying is I'm definitely not putting a black man in jail until I know he's guilty.
black man, white man.
No,
green
no.
man,
Well, I'm
no
concerned
matter.
about black man.
Yeah.
Well, I'm concerned about black man because we don't get justice. What I'm telling you is that I get it. We gotta stop putting us in jail beforehand. I know, yeah. I get it. Listen, I got 3 daughters, so I don't take this lightly. But what I'm saying is, it is just as egregious to put him in jail as it is to assault a woman for something he didn't do.
And there are other black men that don't have the spotlight on them that go through this. There was a young black man.
Somebody else don't have the resources.
Yeah, who just recently got his trial renewed. I can't remember his name, but while he took the young girl home from the bar and the girl completely fabricated the story. There are several black men who go through this, but it's an isolated case. It's an isolated incident, and they can't find any other cases. Deshaun Watson's case is different. There are over 20.
Well, Joe, I'm not saying he's guilty or innocent. But what I'm saying is, if you're gonna set somebody up, you're gonna make it believable. You ain't gonna make it look like it ain't real. You gonna make it.
You may have these women sign NDAs for a massage. Come on.
No. I'm saying, I don't know.
On, bro.
I do not know.
Come on, bro.
You want one, but that's not something I'm going to do. But what I will say is, man, we had a great podcast. This has been
phenomenal,
unbelievable. This is what, and I want everybody, everybody want to do a round table before they go, because I feel like, that is important. Listen, guys, this is the way we change the world. We don't agree on everything. We see the world different, but nobody's dead in this room.
No question. Yeah.
I'm not going to fight Joe. I'm not going to fight Keagan. I'm not going to fight Tim.
Not going to put no semi-automatic
No,
start shooting.
we combine our powers. Christ said, when 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, so shall I be. This is church. We're disseminating intelligence. We're disseminating honor, glory, perseverance, motivation, ambition. We're putting it in the right positions to be successful. This is what this podcast is about, Tim. I want to say I appreciate you, man. You're a busy man. You can see your resume, and I'm glad you was able to come on here and share your story, because it's going to help somebody. You didn't go through that for no reason. You didn't go through that haphazardly. God had a plan for you for this moment and beyond, man. Keep going. You inspired me to do better. You inspired me to pursue, chase, and abduct consistency. I want to make that mine, consistency. And I get that from you. And I want to tell you that, because sometimes black men, we get this thing where we can't talk to each other. Everything's gay. Everything. I can't say I love you. I tell Tim, you can witness this.
No
I say
doubt.
I love you.
No
Keagan,
doubt.
I say I love you.
No
Joe,
question.
I say I love you.
Yeah.
We have to rid this toxic masculinity that we're living up under and start to open up. Joe, what's your round table before we go?
Man, Steve, you articulated that so well, man. And to piggyback back off of what Steve said, not only tell your brother that I love you, I appreciate you. Give your brother the spotlight.
Yeah.
Tell your brother congratulations.
Yeah.
Tell your brother thank you for breaking through that barrier. Tell your brother you inspire me. As black men, we have to stop this savior complex. And by that, thinking that only one person can win. Only one person can save us all. Only one person can shine. Uplift your brother if you see them doing something well.
Yeah.
Keagan, you are dominating the business field.
I
Steve,
appreciate
you dominate every single thing you do. Man, you inspire me. You make me think that I can do literally everything that I put my mind to. You're a great father. It's okay to give someone shine. You don't have to compete. The only person that compete against you is you.
That's facts. That's
We
facts.
are a team.
Yeah.
And we got to stop this competition with one another, and we got to support one another. And that's what this platform is about. It's about supporting each other and giving a different outlook. Yes, we're going to disagree cordially, but at the end of the day, we're going to come up with some resolutions. And at the end of the day, we know that we're brothers, and we're going to walk out of this studio smiling,
No question.
hoping that everyone gets home safely,
Yep.
and looking forward to the next opportunity to come together. So, Tim, thank you for your beautiful story, man.
Yep.
It's really inspiring.
Keagan, what you got? Then Tim, we'll end with you too.
I'm going to say, thank you, Tim, for
Absolutely.
your leadership, and what you're doing, not only 'cause from an inspiration perspective, you're showing me that, 1, you can overcome some things with God. 2, with yourself. and so you can lead others to help them overcome what they might be challenged with. So thank you for what you're doing as far as being a public servant, you know, with your job, also probably in your own community as well, from a fitness perspective. To you two brothers, thank you, because I know what you do every single day, right? You know, what you do in your field is not minimal. People don't understand what it means to be a servant in a substance abuse environment.
Appreciate that.
They do not know. Trust me, I know. It is serious business. It's serious work that you try to put people back together. It's not an easy job, man. So the grace you got to extend to do that, man, I appreciate what you're doing. What you're doing, right, my friend? Hey, I'm right beside you, right behind you, and right in front of you.
Absolutely,
right?
my boy.
So I'm thanking God for everything, because I think everything we do it with God's grace, with His love, and with His ordinance. Will be fine. So that's what I want to leave everybody with is that particular point.
Go ahead, Tim. You finish this off so you guess, my guy.
Yeah, I would just say, man, when I look around the room, there's Black excellence. That's what we talk about. And you guys are using this platform to create that exposure for others. And we're in the room, we're intelligent, we're all Black excellence, and we're not intimidated by one another.
That's good.
So I think what's critical for all of us is sometimes you got to project what you expect. And it's not enough to have a seat at the table. You got to have a voice as well. And regardless of what you've been conditioned to think in your upbringing, like there's always time for transformation and not conforming to whatever the current process is. And so just continue to edify one another, create opportunities, and know that it's okay for everyone to do great. What you celebrate causes you to elevate.
That's good.
So it's no longer I'm only celebrating you until you surpass me, and then I become envious of you.
That's good.
No, celebrate that. What are some of the tools and resources that you can glean from that individual to cause yourself to elevate? Wow. So that's what I would leave everyone with. Continue to have that same appetite. Know that you deserve and you belong to be here, and also don't hesitate. What we do is we wait to the last minute to ask for help. We got to leverage one another. Yeah. Look at the power and the influence that's in the room. We got to continue to proactively reach out. Sometimes we wait till we get in a position and we reach out reactively. Wow. Let's just continue to leverage the resources and make it big. And this platform will continue to do that.
And one more thing before we leave, Tim, I want you to tell everybody your Instagram handle with DOD Fitness. Tell me what you're going to do with that. And just give everybody a little bit what you want to go with DOD Fitness and why. How did it come up before we go?
Yeah. So my Instagram handle is DOD Fitness, D.O.D. Fitness, and
it's a lot of damn dots.
I know, right?
We'll put the link in the description.
Yeah. So for me, again, it was birthed out of my journey. Those were the same principles. I think a lot of times we anoint people prematurely, and sometimes that people can give advice. I know we didn't get to it, but Jackson, we didn't talk about it, but we anoint people too soon, and we give, everybody's qualified to give advice.
Good.
And I think you can only change others when you've experienced it first. And so what I don't want to train, I don't have a desire to train people individually one-on-one, because I feel like my goal is to empower people.
Good.
Not enable people. It's not about monetary to me. I don't need you keep coming back to me. So my goal is to continue to create customized and personalized plans based on what you want to accomplish. And also do something virtually. I don't want to limit myself locally to where I just meet you at a gym. I want to create customized meal plans and fitness plans to help you start to accomplish your goal, guide you throughout the process, and then empower you to continue that success. Because it's a mindset. So create that paradigm shift in your life to continue to keep pressing.
I'm emotional right now. Hey, I'm emotional, Joe.
Listen, SteveJoe Podcast.
It
is
the
realest ones out here. We're not Derek Jackson. What you see is what you get. Close us out, big dog.
Fired.
Hey, listen, guys. Thank you for your support. Go subscribe to our YouTube channel, the SteveJoe Podcast. Hit that link. Joe put it on the bottom of the screen, man. Tim, thank you. Keagan, thank you. Joe, thank you. Yes, the fifth take was the best take. Thank you, guys. The SteveJoe Podcast coming at you, baby.
Peace and love.
I am the greatest.